So we have a question from a seeker, and he says, my practice at this point in time is mainly composed of letting go into my experience, whatever that may be. I have noticed that as I let go, I can often feel this primal energy operating in the background. For example, I may be at work responding to emails, and as I am doing this, I can feel this tightness in my chest and certain background thoughts working away. Another example might be when I see someone on the street, an automatic, borderline unconscious judgment may arise both in the form of emotion in the body and thought in the mind. The main point being that a kind of conditioned primal force appears to operate in the background at all times, almost with its own volition. I have learned not to make this into problem and instead observe with curiosity. I wonder if you had any thoughts on this phenomenon. So I think the seeker here has given the answer along with the question, and the answer is that he says, I have learned not to make this into problem and instead observe with curiosity. So that energy which he describes as primal energy, that is the constantly running, chattering mind. That is, he says, it is my continuous experience. But let's examine whether it is a continuous experience or not. If it was the continuous experience, we would never be able to know it. Because to know, there has to be a subject to observe an object. Therefore, my concept is that it is not a continuous energy operating in the background, the inner chatter. There are gaps in between. And once we tap into those gaps, we realize that even this inner chatter is temporary. This inner chatter is linked to the sense of separate self, which is me. Even the me is an observed entity, but there is no observer. That's the concept. So when observation happens naturally, spontaneously, without any filter, without any preference to outcome, without any wanting to sway the argument in one direction or the other, when it is totally pristine, untouched, and pure observation, that is when letting go automatically happens. There is no way to let go of anything because there is nothing to actually let go of. There is no individual entity that has to let go of anything. That's the understanding here. When we try and put effort into letting go, we are creating this subject-object split. The person, the me, wanting to let go of something which it considers external to itself. This whole relationship, I trying to let go of this particular feeling or sensation or the inner chatter that is troubling me, that itself is a part of the inner chatter that one is trying to get rid of. So this is a trick that mind plays, where mind says, I must let go because letting go is going to bring me peace. And in my understanding, letting go happens. It is not that the individual can let go of something. The more we try to let go, we somehow unconsciously bind ourselves with that object, either through aversion or through any other way. We say, I don't want this, that is why I let go of it. But the I, the very I, cannot let go of anything because this I is tied up to this movement of letting go. That means the object that it is trying to let go of is a part of it. It's not separate from it. In fact, it is it. So who is trying to let go of what? So letting go happens. It happens through observation. When it is observed that something is causing unrest in the mind or body, automatically letting go begins to happen because we see that what we are trying to cling to is causing us pain and discomfort. So we try to, the separate self, the ego, tries to move away from it. But this happens not through conscious effort. Through conscious effort, one can move away temporarily, but then again and again you will find yourself in the same energy. The inner chatter will instantly begin. But once you surrender totally to it and allow the observation to happen rather than trying to stop that observation, what you will notice as the awareness increases is that you will begin to make connections with all the associations that you have with your thoughts. This inner chatter, the unconscious force or judgment as you call it, which automatically comes up, it is indeed a product of conditioning that has happened over time. So, of course, it does come up and causes discomfort. Now, what we do is, instead of paying attention to that discomfort, we try to run away from the discomfort. So we do not actually pay total attention to this discomfort and see where it is coming from. We can see the inner chatter arising and immediately mind comes up, this should not be there. This negativity, this primal, as the seeker here calls it, this primal energy which is completely conditioned, not this, not that, it should be this way, it should be that way. All these associations are revealed in awareness. And it is seen that they do not have a center, a central core as such. These are just energy patterns that are arising in consciousness and disappearing in consciousness. And the masters say that what you truly are is consciousness. Therefore, instead of fighting or letting go, surrender to that completely. That means let the observation happen of the phenomena totally, like what Jiddu Krishnamurti would say. Let the attention be total. What that means is that the attention is not there from a distorted filter which says the outcome must be either this or that. The moment I say that I want the outcome to be a certain way, I'm actually creating division. Division between the observer and the observed. And this division itself is the root of our conflicts. Now, as one pays attention to all that is going on, what you will observe is that slowly this chatter begins to dim. I do not say that it will completely disappear. It will always be there because that's the nature of mind. But it will dim in intensity And when it is dim in intensity, what is on the foreground is awareness, total awareness. And yes, the inner chatter may continue in the background, but there is not much concern with that because it is totally known that the reality is the foreground awareness, the consciousness, the substratum of it all, and not this inner chatter which actually comes and goes. I would say that if you are at this stage where you can actually observe all of this, there is it indicates high level of awareness. And the seeker here also says that when they see someone on the street, there is an automatic judgment that arises in the form of emotion in the body and thought in the mind. So from what I can see is that the awareness is there that all of this is happening. Now let's bring our attention to that awareness, that which is observing all of this, that which is saying a form of emotion arises in the body. If we do not obstruct that emotion, if we do not let thoughts interfere with that emotion, we try to create difference between thought and emotion, but actually they are part of one and the same energy. So when there is an emotion, there is a sensation, and the thought comes up, we think that these are two separate things. But actually the underlying base of it is the same. Thought creates the sensation, the emotion again creates thinking, and that thinking sustains in the mind-body organism and it becomes a part of the inner chatter subsequently. But when we stop creating these divisions between thoughts, emotions, sensations, feelings, and we simply surrender to this observation, this natural observation, and totally attend to the content of consciousness, we find that the content of consciousness is not separate from the consciousness that you are. It is only when we create this split between the observer and the observed, and we think that the observer somehow will be more peaceful if it follows a certain practice or certain method of letting go or surrender. There is no method to letting go or surrender. Then it does not experience any peace because trying to let go is also a movement of the mind. So essentially what mind is doing here is it says that I have 1,000 attachments. I have attachment to my relationship, I have attachment to my work, I have attachment to this, to that. And I continuously ruminate on that. So either I'm lurking in the past or I'm into an imaginary future. I keep myself preoccupied in this movement. And then I feel stress in the body. Stress in the body, stress in the mind. And then I say, what is the solution to this problem? So the mind comes up with a very intelligent solution. It says, now try to surrender or let go. But you see, letting go or surrendering is an impersonal phenomena. The person does not let go because person by nature is bondage. Person does not surrender. The individual does not surrender because individual by nature is bondage. Its nature is bondage. What it tries to do is it comes up with all these clever and cunning tricks and says, if you do this practice, it will go and I will be at peace. But what the masters have said and what has been my personal experience is simply being aware of what is. When I say aware means totally aware, not letting the thought interfere in what is happening. That itself brings the mind to peace. And even if there are uncomfortable sensations, they begin to fade subsequently. Because the mind is not putting too much energy into movement. So mind becomes still, and the still mind is no mind, and no mind is peace. Now, obviously, when I say no mind, I'm not talking about the creative working mind. I'm talking about the obsessive, ruminating, thinking mind, which is lurking into the dead past or into an imaginary future, the one that is the sense of separate self or personal identification, or me as we call it. So, let the observation happen and let what drops drop. Do not concern yourself with trying to drop anything or let go of anything. Letting go will happen, and peace as a result will be experienced. So I hope that is insightful